everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news site. So I'm going to go to Activist Post. They've got a piece, The Magic Trick Science Information Performs. California takes notice. Now, before I start, I just want to say that the same thing that you see oftentimes in organized religion, the same thing you see in science. You've got dogma on one side, you got dogma on the other. You know, when you talk about evolution and you talk about a lot of the science, or I say in quotation, science that's being performed to render favorable findings for perhaps a pharmaceutical or a product or service. That's really what it is. Science is, like religion these days, a big money-making engine, for lack of a better term. And there's a lot of fake science out there, just like there's fake religions, just like there's fake news. There's a lot of fake stuff that you got to kind of weed your way through. Science is no different. It says here, have you ever seen new or updated scientific information published on the internet and then try to find it again only to realize it disappeared or was probably sanitized from the net? It says the above happens quite often, from what I know and have experienced personally being a researcher. And at first, when I thought, when I would report on those findings to colleagues, they thought I was imagining things. However, more and more colleagues and friends now are complaining about the magic tricks happening online to science information. And now what she's talking about here is the censorship portion of what happens to real science. The burying of it, the destruction of it. You know, back in the 60s, I forget, there was a gentleman that created cars that ran on water, just water. And, of course, you know, that could never be allowed to be put to market because it would destroy the internal combustion engine and everything else. Oh, it would be, everybody would be in a tizzy. You know, the petroleum industry would be no more. Kind of like what happened to Nikola Tesla. You know, here's Nikola Tesla. Figures out free energy and presents his findings to J.P. Morgan, who asked the question, what do you put a freaking meter on this thing? He's like, no, man, you don't do that, man. There's no meter. It's free. Oh, J.P. Morgan didn't like that. You don't say it's free to J.P. Morgan. Oh, no. Nothing is free. So he pulls his funding. And, you know, Nikola Tesla dies a pauper. And how many times have you heard of these people that have invented things that didn't sell out that ended up disappearing or silenced? You know, patents pulled. So there's a lot of that going on, too. But also the scrubbing. You know, Catherine Frompovich is quite right here when she says that there is a ton of censorship, you know, or what she says is keeping derogatory and impugning scientific information from common knowledge and, more importantly, being used against corporations and the consensus science clubs that now run the world in just about every aspect of our lives. She says, check out weather geoengineering and genetic engineering for starters. Yeah. Says Einstein, Edison, Faraday, Newton, Galileo, Archimedes, and other prominent real science pioneers must be turning over in their graves, or at least wondering in the hereafter, how the suppression of factual science was allowed to come about. I bet Copernicus is totally gassed that the same scientific BS still goes on. However, now it's not the church, which knew absolutely nothing about astrophysics at the time, but currently is at the behest of vested interests commonly calling themselves consensus science. Then, of course, you got vaccinology and microwave technology are two prominent consensus sciences that we're forced to live with every day. Just all the above being considered, we now learn someone has taken notice and done something about preventing science from doing disappearing magic tricks. Because the state of California passed legislation, Senate Bill 51, called the Whistleblower and Public Data Protection Act, which directs California agencies to protect scientific data. Listen to this. Furthermore, the Union of Concerned Scientists, which published a scathing report in July that found the Trump administration had undermined the role of science in public policy, altered scientific content on websites, and created a hostile environment for federal scientists, backed the bill. They said, science is the foundation of a strong democracy. This is Jason Barbos, Western States Policy Manager for the Union of Concerned Scientists. He says that's why it's important to protect scientists and their research. SB 51 takes concrete steps to protect federal scientists and scientific data from the Trump administration's effort to sideline it from important policy decisions that affect our health and communities. So what they're doing is they're doing it to defend the EPA, the global warming, all of the environmental laws that were put in place. They're doing it so that, their science gets out there. Okay, get it. Got it. Wonderful. However, that's great results because now they have to legally publish all confirmed and real science regarding vaccines and aluminum and mercury and all this kind of stuff. See, so in their effort to save their global warming and all this fake man-made man-bear-pig crap, they actually did something that's very good. And also, it being California, what's the old saying? As California goes, so does the rest of the country. So many times we've seen things enacted in California first, only to be followed. Look at marijuana. They spearheaded it. Medical marijuana, next thing you know, and I mean, that was in the 90s. Everybody thought they were crazy. Ooh. But now look, there's some crazy stuff going on in California, but this is good. And all it takes is one state for it to get out. It's protected. Boom. And where are all the Google servers? California. So just, this is kind of cool. So could very well open the floodgates for real scientific data to get out there. Now, there's always a workaround, so that remains to be seen. But for the moment, we have a victory in California. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day, everybody.